Hi guys, and welcome to the Zero Spoilers first issue review with me, Mark Hogus. We've got a lot to go into today. We're actually going to review two comics today, so let's get to it. First on the agenda is The Superannuated Man, written by Ted McKeever, and it's actually illustrated by him as well, published by Image Comics. Before we start, this is what superannuated means. Superannuated, adjective, meaning outdated or obsolete through age or new developments. And the reason why I've told you that isn't to insult your intelligence, is actually because I genuinely didn't know what that meant, and I only found out after I'd read the comic. And I learned that it's probably best to know what that means before you read the comic. It makes it make a little bit more sense. Basically, the comic follows a lonely man called He, or is only known as He in the book. He lives in a ship that is docked at a town that is inhabited completely by animals that can walk upright and can talk and wear pants. He seems to be quite alone. He has to remain undetected, has to kind of set up decoys to slip out and find food. You get the impression that he's quite trapped, like the place where it is actually quite hostile, the town where it's set is actually quite hostile. Normally he's just kind of left to his own devices, but lately he's noticing that these animals are starting to show a little bit more interest in where he lives and started to kind of pry in on him a little bit, which is making him a little bit nervous. There's no real setup here, there's no backstory, there's no prologue, there's nothing. There's just this. It's completely left to the reader to interpret what's going on, and to be honest, it kind of works. It's not a problem. It definitely creates more questions than it answers. Moving on to the artwork, it is superb. When I first saw it, I was a little bit taken aback, because I wasn't expecting it to be in black and white, because it is in black and white for the entirety of the comic. But there's a very organic, non-digital look to the artwork itself, which is good, because a lot of comics these days do look like they've just kind of been knocked together in 2 minutes. I give Superannuated Man a 4 out of 5. There is not much wrong with this comic book. It's confusing, but it is easy to follow. The world itself is easy to engross yourself in. Read it. It's great. Right, the second book is Super Ego. This one has been published on Magnetic Press. The writer and illustrator is Chow Oliveira. I'm very sorry if I mispronounced that. I did try my best. Now this one I was really excited to read. I'd read the premise and I knew what was gonna... I had an idea of what was gonna happen. So I knew as soon as I'd read that I was gonna review this book. It follows Eugene Goodman, who's a seemingly normal person, but has quite an extraordinary job in the sense that he is a psychotherapist to superheroes. What a great idea. Immediately I thought, okay, we're going to have some really crazy issues here. It's going to be a dark comedy, there's going to be debauchery and things that you wouldn't realise happen behind sort of the closed doors of superheroes. That unfortunately wasn't what I was treated to. It was filled with parodies of superheroes that already exist, like Iron Man, Superman, Wonder Woman, that sort of thing, which normally I'm okay with, but it felt a little bit like there was no originality whatsoever in these characters. They were just straight rip-offs rather than nods to the originals. Don't get me wrong, I do like that to an extent. I think that in this particular book it is kind of needed. I feel like it was executed badly though, and they just came across more of a rip-off than an homage. Then you learn about a character called Lester. Lester was the reason why I carried on reading this book. He's a 29-year-old who ages slower, so he actually looks around about 16. He's actually the unwanted child of two other superheroes, two of the world's greatest superheroes, no less. And because of that, he's been made to feel unwanted, useless. At one point he said that he doesn't want to join any super groups. He's saved the world quite a few times but has no interest in that. And you really feel for this character. Because of that sort of relationship he's had with his real father, he kind of projects this need for a father figure onto Dr. Ego. You get the impression, in fact no, it's not that you get the impression, you don't get the impression of anything. One of my main issues with this comic book is your hand is held for the entire time. You are told what to think through narration. It's narrated by Dr. Ego all the way through, and I would have liked to have been left to my own devices to come up with conclusions on a few of the characters, but you're not. You're told this is what his problem is, this is what his personality is, this is why he does this is why he does that, and that's not what I wanted at all. I wanted to find out about the characters and make my own decisions, because part of the fun is finding out you were wrong in your first impression, but you can't do that when you're told from the start what the actual issue is. Another main issue that I have is the fact that the comic book just ends. He literally ends his work day, gets in his car, goes home, end of comic. Now, I was surprised at that. There was no cliffhanger, no set up to a second issue, literally no reason for you to care at all and read the next issue, which I can't get my head around. Why would you not do that? When I originally said I was going to start doing comic book reviews, my girlfriend said to me, you know, you can't always be positive. You are going to have to be negative towards some of the comic books that you don't like. And I actually genuinely was a little bit worried about this, because I don't really tend to like giving bad reviews. But this comic just hit all the wrong notes with me from beginning to end. The artwork is okay, it's quite unremarkable, the movement feels a little bit stunted in it, and it's okay. It certainly is better than the writing. Unfortunately, Super Ego didn't live up to what I thought it was going to be, and for that I'm going to give this 2 stars. Please, again, I read it if you want to. I would love to know if you think I'm wrong, what your thoughts are on the comic book. Please let me know. Leave in the comments below. Now this leads me on to another segment that I'm going to do in my show called a Wildcard. Now, obviously none of you know what this is, as I've never done it before, but a Wildcard is going to be a comic book that's a little bit late to the game. It was recommended to me a little bit later in the week, so I didn't really get time to properly review it, or maybe it's a comic book that's quite a few issues into its run, so I can't really call it the first issue review, because a lot of you would have probably read it already. But this week, it's going to be Doghouse Anthologies, and the reason why I'm recommending this book to you is because it's incredible. From beginning to end, incredible. It's written by Mike Sizemore, the artwork is done by David Kennedy and Nicola Anderson, and it truly is exceptional. Basically, it's 3 different stories that follow 3 different universes, 3 different art styles, 3 different writing styles, which is so strange because it's written and drawn and inked and coloured by the same people, but you would never have thought that it was the same people. It looks like 3 completely different teams. Page 1, you are treated to some exceptional artwork. It's very rare that I see work from cell to cell that has a fluidity in the movement that's almost movie-like. I can only imagine the amount of time that they spent storyboarding this comic. The first story, Avalon, follows a team of British soldiers who crashed the Chinook helicopter through a portal that leads through to the Middle Ages. It's a story of old versus new, where the British soldiers are immediately set upon by archers and axe-wielding Saxons, and it's actually quite exciting. I felt sort of a little bit of stress at the end of it, the same kind of stress that you feel when you just come to a particularly tense episode of your favourite drama. Then we move on to the second comic, which is NYPD Weird, a story that seems to centre around 2 normal police officers who are called to a terrorist attack. For some reason, they've chosen the Amish as the enemy in this, which is a nice touch. You soon find out that this is not a normal world. The weapon that they choose to eradicate the Amish issue is a little bit strange. The story itself is kooky, it's good, it's well written, it's again well drawn. You then move on to the third book, which is again completely different in every way, but this time it's a Repo Man, but not a normal Repo Man. This is a Repo Man who retrieves items of a higher importance. It's more James Bond than Operation Repo. Once again, you find yourself actually caring about the character. Jack Miller, who seems to be the main protagonist, is a James Bond type character, but seems very green, very inexperienced. He's one of those people who is charming, and though he makes mistakes, does get the job done in one way or another. All in all, the reason why I chose Doghouse Anthologies is because it blew me away, and it's very rare that a comic book does that. And it's not that I was expecting it to be bad, it's that I expected nothing. Completely neutral going into it, and from beginning to end, amazing. I use Comixology, as I have said, so all the links are in the description below. Please like, comment, subscribe, it really helped me out a lot. I really like to hear your feedback. Full written reviews of the Superannuated Man and of Super Ego are on my website, which is hogus.co.uk. Follow me on Twitter at hogusmarkham. There's also a link below to my Facebook page. And all in all, guys, thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye bye.